You're a leader. As an entrepreneur, you're a leader. And whether you think you are or not, the people that are connected to you, they see you as a leader. And you need to walk in that. You need to be that.
Hey, welcome to another edition of the Journey to Freedom podcast. And I'm Dr. B, your host. Just super excited. And I know, I'm sorry, I say that every single time, but every single time that I get to interview and talk to and be a part of the lives of a young Black man or older Black men, or just Black men in particular, I get excited. And I do because, I'm getting ready to turn 60. And, for the last 59 years that I've been alive, I've seen struggles. I've seen people not be able to achieve. I've seen people that wander kind of around, I don't know if you want to say in the desert, but just with identity. And, when we talk about identity and who we are and where we're trying to achieve. And so as we're interviewing 100 Black men this year in 2024, I get to be that fly on the wall. I get to be that person who, they say, if the people that you hang around most, the people that are your associations are who you are. And within your top 5 people you hang around, you probably make within $5,000 to $10,000 the same amount that they make. You probably have the same friends that they have. You probably have, the same likes and dislikes that they have. Well, I get to interview 100 men now that I get to associate with. And so some of them are way, way above where I'm at and where I'm trying to be. And some of them are, coming up and comers. But I get to hang around because if they ever say that, I've heard this several times, and maybe Michael, you've heard this too. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And so I get to make sure that I am not the smartest person in the room. And, as I think about the different things and some of the podcasts, I would absolutely, subscribe, hit the bell, whatever it is that we put up here, because some of these have been so intense over the last few days. I had an ex-NBA player who talked about his getting off of the drugs and things he went through. I talked to another person. We just talked about fatherhood. He was taken away from, a child born out of wedlock and the mom not wanting him to see the daughter. And then I also get to talk to people like, I'm hitting it, I'm doing well, I'm making it happen, I'm making life move forward. And so, it's kind of funny. I asked Michael before we started the show, what is he most excited about? And he gave the right answer, right? And so whatever he's excited about is what he should be excited about, right? He talked about business and he talked about his kids. And the more I get to talk about kids, I have 8 children and I have 16 grandkids now. So, I'm a person who, I just put one baby away right now just so we could do this podcast. And so, but what I found, and Michael, you can tell me if you agree with this, is that, our kids need us. They need us. They need us to protect them. They need us to provide for them. They need us to be part of their lives. They need to be loved. They need that, and they need that at such massive amounts. But what I'm submitting is we need them just as much. We need to be able to protect and be able to provide and be able to make sure that we were helping somebody grow and turn into something. And that's what fulfills our lives. And so when you said my kids and the potential, and then your business is growing and all those things. So I'm not going to talk a lot more because I want you to be able to talk and I want you to be able to tell your story and I want to learn from you. So I let you know that you can start anywhere in your life you want to and just tell us who you are, your story, where you came from. And then we'll talk about and chop it up on the 5 pillars and where do we go from here. So thank you.
I love it. Well, first off, Dr. B, let me congratulate you for doing a phenomenal job with your podcast. And I think that's that's like a very noble intention as it relates to interviewing 100 Black men. I know you're really probably getting a lot of gems and insights and building some phenomenal relationships with the people that you're able to interview and you're talking to people probably all throughout the United States, if not the world. So it's definitely an amazing feat, man. And I'm super excited for you to compile all of it and see, how you leverage speaking with all these guys. All right. And so as far as me, so as you said, Michael G. Davis, I'm the current CEO of Brooks and Davis Real Estate Firm. I'm a real estate broker. I've been a real estate broker for 20 years. I'm also a business coach, realtor and business coach as well. And, just to kind of start, let's start from the back end and just kind of go back to the beginning, right? So I told you what I am now. Well, how did I get here? I went to college to be a chemical engineer. I loved science. I loved math. My dad, he was a chemist. He worked within Shell Oil Company. My mom, she worked within the regulatory for ExxonMobil. I grew up, I have an older brother, it's just me and him. We pretty much grew up middle class. Not one of those, man, started from the bottom. We was dirt poor. It ain't really none of that. I tell people too, I say, look, man, that ain't my story. Like, we did pretty good. my mom,
I love it.
My mom did, right? And I had my dad, we did face some challenges. When I was 12 years old, my parents ended up getting divorced. So I began being raised, by a single mom. And then my dad had some mental issues that we were dealing with as well. So, it wasn't all, daisies, but it is a lot better. I had a lot better childhood than a lot of my peers and friends and things like that. So, looking at my mom, she's college educated. My dad's college educated. I grew up and they owned the home. So that's kind of like the life that I came from. So seeing that, obviously college was, especially in the mind of my eyes, college was not an option. Like, you're going to college. So I ended up going to college. My older brother ended up going to the Navy. He went to the service and then he came back and went to college. And then just kind of seeing the occupations that my parents had, science, math, that's where I landed. Chemical engineering is where I landed at Prairie View A&M University, historically Black college and university, because my parents went to a HBCU. So, you talked about that earlier, Dr. B, just kind of how the kids follow, follow the line and the guidance of the parents. So it's just, I landed up in Prairie View. So I do that, get the degree, right? I graduated when I was 24. Get the degree, get a job. Corporate America, got a job at ConocoPhillips as a chemical engineer, production engineer. Came out of college, got a salary. My mom had been with Exxon for about maybe 35 years. And I came out of school making $20,000 more than what she was making.
What? Oh my gosh.
So you can imagine, as a parent, I'm realizing the dreams that she had for me, right? Go to school, get a good job. Now, you making more money than me. She worked with engineers. So I ended up working in the same side of the oil industry as she had been working in for the last 35 years. So she saw the engineers, she saw the kind of cars they drove, she saw them going on month-long vacations and all of that, right? So for her, it's like, my son, he's now going to be this that I see, right? Until after about a year of me working at ConocoPhillips, I go to her and say, you know what? I'm quitting my job. I'm not going to do this. Man, it was.
I can see her face right now. What? Draw this. What?
Man, it was, one of the things that I just kind of realized at that moment that it's got to be more than this, right? Like, my mom didn't have any other aspirations for me other than getting a job, getting a nice job. And it's like, I did that, but I'm 24, 25. Like, come on, man, it's got to be more than this.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that now I've been an entrepreneur for the last 20 years. Nobody in my family was an entrepreneur. Like, I grew up in a family of workers who go to work, employees, and they may have had nice jobs, but nobody really was an entrepreneur or business owner. So I'm kind of like, I'm saying, hey, I'm gonna quit my job and I'm gonna chase this entrepreneurial dream. And I'm really standing on an island because everybody's like, man, your degrees in chemical engineering, you've decided instead of being an engineer, you're gonna be a realtor. Like, come on, bro, what are you doing? Are you losing your mind? And there was a period, man, of trying to make this thing work, trying to figure it out. I guess for about a couple of years, to where, hey, I started questioning my own self. Like, hey, man, did I make the right decision to do this. But at the time, it was like, look, I'm not married. I don't have any kids. What do you got to lose? Technically, I had the degree I could fall back on if I needed to. But I knew I wasn't going to go back, man. America just wasn't for me. And when I asked myself if I was going to really do this, quit my job or stay here, I just really thought about, what the next 30 years would look like. Right. Mm-hmm. And I asked myself, hey, 30 years here in this job versus 30 years being a business owner or an entrepreneur, which has the greatest opportunity for potential? And I decided to bet on me. And I'm like, hey, man, if I had this time and I really do it, and I know my work ethic and I know my level of intention and what I'm going to do, I believe that my life will be better if I travel this path versus staying in this path that I'm in right now. Now, it hasn't been 30 years yet, right? But I do believe that I made the right decision, right? And what I can say is that through this entrepreneurial journey, I've really learned so much, and I've had to evolve, and I've had to grow and mature and develop. And I do ask myself sometimes, like, if I had to do it all over again, would I do it? Because it's been very challenging. And you probably know this, Dr. B. It's hard to be a business owner and an entrepreneur and to take care of a family and this be it. Mm-hmm. That's so difficult, so challenging. So you ask yourself, man, if I had to do it all over again, would I walk this path? And I continue to come back to I would. For a while, I didn't know why the answer was I would do it again, right? Because logically, it don't make sense. Like, this was a crazy trip. Why would I do it again? And now I think I finally do understand why I would do it again, Dr. B, is because of the person that I've become going through this journey, right? I really like the person. You talked about identity. Like, I really like who I've become and now who I can be for my family and for my kids and for my agents. And that's why I would go through it again, because that's how I became me. So, quit the job, struggled through things, started the brokerage firm. We started our brokerage firm in 2008, right?
Oh, wow. Okay. Right when it all hit.
Right.
I know 2008 well.
Right when it all hit, right? We started having conversations about doing it in 2007, like the end of 2007.
Yeah.
And, at the time, I had only been licensed. I got my real estate license in 2004. So I'd only been licensed about 2 years before everything shifted. So I didn't know what was going on. Like, you're so young, and I wasn't with a brokerage firm that was very nurturing. I wasn't with one of the big brands. So there was really no training or guidance. I kind of got connected with a guy, and he said he was going to mentor me, but he really didn't do a good job of it. So I decided to just say, forget it. I ended up at one of those 100% firms, and hey, it's figure it out, sink or swim. So that's where I'm at. And then 2 years on the button, I get my broker's license. So now I'm 2 years in this thing. I'm a broker. I can hold my own license, and the market shifts, and I don't know what's going on. Let me tell you, what I know is that I had a great 2006. 2006 was the first year that I went made over $100,000 in my life. Matter of fact, I didn't even know nobody that had made that amount of money, even growing up, living. Like, we were middle class people. So, like, I didn't know nobody that's, making that amount of money. So I made 2006, I made $100,000. This is 2 years of being in real estate. So now you're thinking, hey, common sense. Well, if I did these were the activities that I did and it got me this, and I'm going to double down on those activities, right? So I began to double down and do all the things that I was doing in 2006. But by the time the end of 2007 got here, my amount of money that I had made was cut in half.
Oh, yeah.
So now you can imagine a little bit of confusion going on. Like we say now, the math ain't mathing, bro. So that was the environment, coming out of 2007, going into 2008, where I decided to partner with my business partner. And I think a lot of that, Dr. B, was because both of us had such horrible years in 2007. It was so challenging that we were like, man, I do not want to go through that by myself again. I
Yes,
do not want to go through anything like that by myself. Don't want to give up on the business. Don't want to go back, but I don't want to give up. I don't want to go through this alone, right?
yeah.
And we had an opportunity to kind of observe one another. We decided to, hey, let's get in partnership and let's go through this thing. So together. So we did that in 2008. And along the, it's so many stories intertwined over that 16-year period, because we celebrated 16 years last year. This year, actually. It's so many ups and downs and stories and learning opportunities and getting it right and then getting it wrong and making a bunch of money and then all the money gone and trying to figure out, how things are going to get done. But then when you look back on it all, there's a sense of pride and there's a sense of identity saying, hey, you made it, like you did it. I was listening to, I'm actually reading a book. It's called Profit First.
Mm-hmm.
And, one of the things, I read the book, but I also listened to the keynote speech from the author. And one of the things that he said, he started running numbers as it relates to entrepreneurship. And he was like, hey, look, I think he said 50% of businesses, and you probably know this, 50% of them don't make it past 5 years.
Yep.
Right. No. He said 50% of the population decides to start a business. That's what
I didn't know that one. Okay.
Yeah. He said, so 50% of the population decides to start a business. And then I forgot what the other statistic was as it related to how many of them that
actually do business and enlist. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But when it was all said and done, he was like, hey, when you do this math, in essence, what we're saying is less than 3% of the population ever is successful in business. Right. Yeah. So regardless of how much money is in your bank account, regardless of what your revenue is, what your profit is, any of that stuff, if your doors are still open after 5 years, you are in the top 3% of the population, right? Wow. So there's a pride that comes with that. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right. So, and I think a lot of that confidence and that pride is what carries you forward and moves you forward. So one of the things that I say to my agents a lot when I'm training them and I'm coaching them is that, you're a leader. As an entrepreneur, you're a leader. And whether you think you are or not, the people that are connected to you, they see you as a leader. And you need to walk in that. You need to be that, right? So I tell my agents, look, I'm not just training real estate professionals. I'm not just training realtors. I'm training leaders, right? You guys have to show up for your communities because, especially in our community, right? We're talking about Black men and we're talking about the Black community. Leadership is what's going to help us deal with the gaps that we have in our community. It's leaders, it's people that's going to stand up, because when you think of the major gains that we've had over the years as Black people in this country, we can always point back to who were the leaders that drove those things and really moved the community forward. And then when we have those times, those gaps where hasn't been really a lot of movement in our community and kind of pushing things forward, you can see that there's been a void of who's the leader in this generation, who's the leader in this moment that's about moving the community to the next level. So leadership's always been the thing for me. So, say I'm 44, I celebrate 44. Yeah, I'm 44. You kind of forget what are you. So
exactly.
And when it comes to like kind of telling your story, obviously, man, there's a lot packed in 44 years. I'll be here talking about this stuff all day, Dr. B. I don't want to take the whole podcast.
You are right on time because, when we think about success leaving clues and what people have been able to do, as you're telling your story, I'm remembering, we have some intersections like I was a 400 hurdler and I won my first national championship and I was at Azusa Pacific University. Yeah. I beat a person named Rodney Hale from Prairie View, but I didn't realize it was a historically Black college that, I just remember, and I can remember it was one of those, it's my sophomore year and he was so confident and I was like idolizing him and it's like, and then, he made the mistake of raising his hands and then I just leaned in front of him. And so he was not happy with me. So I don't know if I have a good rapport with Prairie View at this point. But as thinking through things like the goal of the journey to freedom, and then the reason that I put this, whole program and initiative together is because I wanted to help people to become the person that they needed to be, so they could do what God put them on this earth to do.
Yeah.
And then I hear you talk about, hey, I am not all. None of us have arrived all the way, but I
Right.
love the person that I've become.
Yeah.
And so at the end, where as I'm coaching people and I'm in business and I'm doing stuff, I'm finding, people that are kind of in that, I'm kind of stuck, or
Mhm.
I don't believe in myself enough, or I don't think I'm enough,
Yeah.
and then to find somebody who said, I've been through that and it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's such an eye opening that you go, wow, because, and so I want to talk today a little bit about maybe just the stuff that you do and you help people. I was to somebody the other day and we were talking about a story, and he was bringing up some NFL coaches that because a lot of people, I believe, sometimes think that your coach has to have done what you did in order to coach you.
Right.
And then but he was telling the story about like some of the coaches in the NFL never even played football,
Right.
and yet they're head coaches. They never was on the field. They never got hit. They never had to run back. But they're head, think like of Bill Belichick, right? I don't know. I don't think he played professional football. I don't even know if he played. I assume he played high school football.
Right.
But he's one of the greatest coaches that ever lived. And then we get into our business sector, business world, and really all we want is results, right? We want the result. And if somebody who has studied what we need to do can help us get there, we should probably listen and not be
Absolutely.
worried about if they did something. So what are some of the things, some of the ways that, and you're probably helping people that you've already done it, but what are some of the ways that you're able to help people do the things that they need to do in
Yeah.
order to achieve whatever they're trying to hit?
Yeah. No, that's an excellent question, Dr. B. And I think where it starts is the individual. It kind of starts with, what are you as the individual, the person that's about to be coached? Like, what kind of ground, what kind of soil are you bringing to the relationship? Right.
Ooh, I like that.
Because if you're not coachable, meaning if you're not open to pretty much everything that you talked about, Dr. B, like if you're caught up on the fact of, like you said, there are some head football coaches that have never played football. And if you're caught up on the fact that, oh, this guy never played football, I don't need to listen to anything that he says, then yeah, you're going to miss a lot, right? Because even when you make that statement, and if you're a fan of football and you start looking at the landscape of all these younger head coaches getting into football, right? And you think of, my man who's coaching the LA Rams. I think he was like 30 years old or 31 years old when they won the Super Bowl. Like his team was the best team in the entire league. The man's 30 years old. He was younger than many of his football players. And he never played professional football, right? I think where it comes from, Dr. B, is that you see if a person loves it. I believe the best coaches, it doesn't have anything to do with them having experience in what it is that you're being coached or guided on. I think it has to do with, do they just love helping people, right? Because if you just love helping people, then you can coach. You're going to be a phenomenal coach and a phenomenal developer of men. And like when I think of myself, and why I'm doing it, like even when I say, why am I still in real estate, right? If I still had to work with buyers, right, and take them and show them properties and deal with those situations, right? If I still had to work with sellers, like if I still had to work with the consumer, I would not be in real estate, right? That's not why I wouldn't. The reason that I'm still in it, and the reason that I still want to perform at a high level, is because I want to impact. I want to impact people, right? So I want to impact this real estate agent, and I want to get them to a point to where they can operate, to where they can go help this family that nobody in the family's ever owned a home, and they can help them get past their gaps and their mindsets and their fears to go ahead and be the trailblazer for their entire family, right? Because most and know this, one person buy a house, now everybody, it changes the whole landscape. It changes generations, right? So I want to cause that kind of impact. Like I want to look behind me and see, hey, this is the footprint, right? So that coaching piece, it has to come from that place, right? If people want it just for the title, like, oh, I can call you coach, and this, and that, you're doing it for the wrong reasons, right? So on my Instagram, my handle is @CEO Coach Mike, right? And the only reason I came up with @CEO Coach Mike, because I'm the CEO of Brooks and Davis. You know, I coach and I love coaching. I'm super passionate about it. Like I just so much fun doing it. It just made sense. That's the handle for Instagram, right? Yeah. It has nothing to do with the title or anything about, but the thing about it is, and you talk about identity, when you present yourself as a coach, people call you coach.
They do.
They call me coach. Like my agents call me coach Mike. Appreciate that, Coach Mike. Thank you for doing that for me, Coach Mike. Like they just call me coach. And so now it's kind of organically happened. I love it. So we're going to lean into it.
There we go.
Because at the end of the day, people have things, right? Especially in our business, everybody's chasing money, right? And we get it. Money's a currency. So it allows you to do things. It allows you to transact, right? I give me something back, right? There's a level of influence, right? If you got thinks or knows you have a lot of money, then it affords you the ability to get things. You ain't even got to spend the money, right? Just ask some of these A-list superstars, and you know, when they go somewhere, they're not paying.
Nope. The more you got, the less you pay.
Right. So there are these things that currency can do for you, but we forget that money is just one currency. They don't. And what I work to help, especially my new agents, understand is that money is one currency, and stop getting caught up on that currency, because then you begin to overlook the other currencies that are more valuable, that when you lean and leverage into those currencies, you can get the same results that if you had the money. Like you could get something for it. If you leverage it right, you having the perception of having this, start getting results. So we talk about time, right? And everybody has the same amount of time, right? Rich people don't get more time than us, right? Well, white people don't get more time than black people, right? Men don't get more time than women. We all have the same, and that's the most valuable currency. Why? Because you don't get it back when you lose it.
You spend it, it's gone.
Right? But just like you can waste your money, you waste your time. And most people don't have no money, and it ain't got nothing to do with the money. It has to do with you didn't invest your time the right way, right? And then I talk to them about relationships. That's the currency. I talk to them about knowledge. That's the currency. I talk to them about ideas. That's the currency. I mean, look at the biggest companies in the world right now. Look at the most richest people in the world right now. What did they do? They came up with generational ideas, right? They say we're in the information age, right? And that's the thing about being in the information age. They say right now the rate of innovation that's happening in our world is unprecedented. I mean, it's compared to previous generations, centuries. The level of innovation that's happening and how fast it's happening is mind-blowing. Well, why is that? Because we all have access to so much information. We're talking about millennia of information that we have access to. So now we can take all that information and now we leverage it and we use that to come up with these amazing ideas that are changing the world. Yeah, you're going to make a whole lot of money, right? But we all have the capacity to do that, Dr. P, and a lot of us are just sitting on that. We're not using our time and investing our time the right way. And even if we do go get the knowledge, right? I was doing a coaching session and I asked them, Dr. B, I say, man, how many of y'all I say, let me see who reads the most. I say, who reads the most books in a month? Who reads the most books, right? Everybody in the room's face was all turned up. I'm like, y'all don't read? I say, look, if you don't read, right, or you read 1 book a month, and I read 3 books a month, well, guess what? I'm not smarter than you. I'm not better than you, but I know more than you.
You too. I mean, yeah, you think of how much time people spend celebrating other people's greatness. You think of and like I said, I love sports and I love athletics, but I'm not wearing another man's, name on the back of my back and my jersey going, I'm on the team, because I'm not on the team and that person doesn't know me. And if I walked up to him, I'd probably barely get him to shake my hand.
Right.
And we have that opportunity to spend all that time, because I know people like, do you got an NFL ticket or something like that? And I want you to enjoy the game, but not 9 hours on Sunday when you could read a book. You could increase your knowledge so that you could do more. I had a guy call me up. He was going to the game last night, like Kansas City and Baltimore, whatever. And he was so excited about it. And he went on for like a half hour, 45 minutes about all the stats on the team. And I wanted to ask him, like, you got kids, what are their stats?
Right.
Can you tell me what their stats are? What's the book you read? How did it help you to increase? And we don't think about that all the time, as we get so into, yes, you think of the Denzel Washington is an amazing actor, and he does great at pretend to be somebody else. And he's probably one of the best people in the world at pretending he's somebody else. But I don't know him, right? I mean, and he makes millions of dollars communicating, but it's his greatness. Right. And I enjoy it, and I want to go to his movies, and I want to watch him, but at the same time, not at the expense of my life and what I get to do for my family and the legacy that I get to leave them. I'll let you keep going, but you made me think of that, of how much, as you're saying that, how much time we spend.
So this is what I tell him, Dr. B, because you right. I tell him, I say, look, all right, you want the money. I get it. We all want the money, but here's right. Because I also mentioned reputation. Like, reputation is a currency that you can use.
Ooh.
I say, here's the thing, right? What determines how much money that you're going to end up getting, how much money that you attract, right? They keep saying chasing the bag, Dr. B. I'm not chasing the bag. Like, I'm attracting the bag. Like, the bag.
There we go. Yes.
Right? But what determines it is how you use those other currencies. Right? How are you using your time? How are you using your relationships? How are you using the knowledge? How are you using the ideas? I used to also say leverage. So how are you leveraging those things because that's how you get the money, right? That's how you get the reputation, is how you leverage those things. And time, relationships, knowledge, ideas, they're the equalizer, because you don't have to be special. You don't have to have a certain pedigree. You don't have to be born in a certain neighborhood, because it's all equal, because we're humans.
Yeah.
And we all have that capacity. The only difference is some people are making better use of those currencies than others. So when it boils down to coaching and what I do, really, it's that. Getting people to understand that right there is that you literally, whatever your success is in your head, whatever it is to you, you already have all the currencies that you need to achieve it. You don't need more time, and get more time even if you wanted it, but you don't need more time. You don't need more relationships. You already got relationships that can get you to where you want to go, right? You don't need more knowledge, right? Because you've already known, if you've lived, you've acquired knowledge. Like, there's knowledge, right? And you don't need more ideas, right? You have everything that you need to come up with creating the life that you want to experience, right? But you just got to choose that you're going to use them a certain way. Go ahead, Dr. B.
No, absolutely. You're hitting so many things that are just, like you coaching me right now. So, I was thinking, like, I used to say this. I mean, one of the things I used to say is, I wish I had another hour in the day.
Right.
That guy was putting out there speaking, and then as I got coached, and I had people, wait a minute, what am I doing with the hours I do have?
Right.
Because instead of trying to get another hour in the day, how about I use the hours that I have more wisely? Like that
Absolutely.
5 minutes that I go through email or scroll through some social media, or that 10 minutes that I spent at the, talking about something that meant, if I wasn't developing a relationship and I did all the talking and didn't
Yeah.
do any listening, then
Yeah.
I just wasted a whole bunch of time that I can't get back.
That's right.
Would you say you leverage it? Part of, I think, the process of talking to you, or people that are there's you, is, how do I take that time that I have
Hmm.
and make the most out of it? What kind of habits do I develop? What kind of things do I need to do? Like, maybe take me through a day or something like that, of somebody that you said, this person really truly wants to be successful, they're
Hmm.
coachable, and the
Hmm.
things you might tell them during a day, how their day should look compared to maybe what they're doing.
No, absolutely. No, that's a great question. So I start everybody the same place, right? I just had the whole conversation about the currencies. So we're going to start with the most valuable currency, your time,
Hmm.
right? All right. And the reason that we neglect time is because everybody, you're going to get to sleep, wake up, and you're going to be replenished with time, right? It's, yeah, we know at some point the inevitable is going to happen, that you're going to die. But while you're alive, there's an abundance of it,
Hmm.
right? Every day, every it refunds. And that's why we take it for granted, right? So the first thing we got to do is we got to sit down and we're going to say, we got to decide, what are we to do with our time today? Today, what are we going to do with our time? Because what most people are doing is that they're not saying, what are we going to do with our time? And therefore, the time is gone. It just goes. Because we've heard it, right? Time waits for no man.
Yep.
So if you don't give it any direction, it's just going to go without you.
It's just going to
Go.
You
So
existing.
the first thing we got to do is we got to decide, what are we going to do with our time? Now, here's the thing, man. So I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Now, I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning because I like getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning because when I sit down and I look at all that needs to be done, and I look at the amount of time that it's going to take to accomplish these things that are important to me and that it needs to be done, then it says, this to happen, you have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. So that's why I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, so I can be able to achieve all these things. Now, I thought that we all fight, right? We all sleep in 6, 7, 8, right? We want to sleep in. But when I think back on when I didn't get up, or when I didn't commit to saying, this is the time, this is what I was going to do, everything seemed rushed. The day just always seemed rushed. I was you, Dr. B, man, if I just had one more hour, boy, if I just had, it's never another. I used to say there's never enough time. There's never enough time in the day. We say all of that. And when in reality, and that's how it was. But now when I get up at 5, I mean, sometimes, man, I'm kind of twiddling my fingers because I'm like, there's something I should be doing, but I did that. That's taken care of. That's being handled. That's okay. You find these little gaps of about 10 minutes. Like you're in a gap before you got to do the next thing. And you're like, I mean, it's 10 minutes, but it's here. It doesn't, you're not rushed. It's not this fast-paced situation like it used to be. And everything's done at a high level. So the first thing we got to do, Dr. B, is that we got to decide to give our time guidance and say, this is what we're going to do with our time. And like you said, I need to do or have done what I'm coaching you on. What I just said transcends everything.
Yep.
Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it transcends everything. So if I'm coaching you, the first thing we got to do is decide, what is it that needs to be done for you? What is important to you? What do you want to achieve? Right? And then now we have to identify on a daily basis, a weekly basis, daily basis, we're going to block out our time and give that time guidance to be able to achieve these things right here. That's the first thing we're going to do, right? So now, one of those blocks right? As I lean into more of a real estate conversation, one of those blocks has to be enhancing the other currencies that we talked about, right?
Yep.
So if I say that relationships is a valuable currency, then I need to have some time in my day to where I'm nurturing relationships. I need to have some time in my day where I'm going out there and I'm meeting people so I can find more relationships, right? I need to give some of my time for that day direction to go do that, right? Because guess what? If I have time and now I have these relationships, I'm getting richer, all right? I'm getting more currency and it ain't got nothing to do with money, right? Another thing, we talked about knowledge. If we're saying knowledge is a currency, then I need to give time. I need to give my time some direction to where I go get more knowledge.
Yeah.
Right? So I need to spend some time reading, right?
Hello.
Reading. Come on, man. We got to read. I need to spend some time getting knowledge. If I say ideas, creativity is a currency, then I need to give guidance to my time for my day that I spend creating, right?
Ooh, that was so important.
It's so important. See, everybody's moving, and they don't understand creativity hates motion. You got to stop, get quiet, sit still. That's when they come, right? And so, to give an example of what the day looks like, right? It's first identifying what are the things that matter in addition to what I just mentioned, right? You got to have time to build relationships. You have to have time to enhance your knowledge. You have to have time to create, right? All of that has to be done in your day. And then you identify what are the other things that matter in whatever that career is that's for you. Now, I know for me, my family is super duper important to me. So when it even comes to me planning, I plan the family first, and then I plan the other stuff around it. But here's the crazy thing, Dr. B, it's more than enough time to be able to do that. Like, I don't know why people feel like they can't do that. Like, it's more than enough time to be able to do that.
Well, I think part of it is just, when we think about being proactive and being reactive. And so many people spend so much time on the reactive side that it sucks all their time away because they didn't plan. They didn't get, hey, I'm going to get up at 5:00 in the morning and then I'm going to do the things that are my high priorities. And I think sometimes we forget, like, relationships is nothing that you should probably do fast. Right. Relationships are those things that you cultivate, that you spend time, that you listen more than you talk. But like on the other part, technology has allowed us to do so many things. You talk about reading, but I can listen to a book while I'm working out, and I can listen to a book. My brain has the ability to listen to it at 1.5 speeds or 2 speeds. So I don't have to hear it at the time it takes for me to read. I'm an author and I read my book, right? It's taking me a long time to read the book. They can listen to it twice as fast. Right. If that's the priority. So the relationships, then take the technology and you go, so like for me, I'm saying, okay, I'm writing my second book. I need to write the book. Well, if I had to do this 25 years ago, back in 2009, I'd be having to go to the library, pull out these little microfiches and do research. Now I can say, ChatGPT, show me how people make decisions. And not like in 30 seconds it's there. But I can get the book written, and so we have to proactive about saying, this is my schedule for today. Right. I think, and then that's what, and I think you have to build some time in to be reactive. I used to have a sign in my door when I had it that said, when you come to me with your problem, come to me with 2 solutions, and then we'll discuss it, and so, because I'm going to put them in there because life's going to happen no matter what. But how do I make sure that I take advantage, the things that you're talking about is, relationships, got to do relationships, got to be. And then now I do have time for my kids because that's a relationship that means more to me than any of the other things that I'm spending my time on. Absolutely. So, and when you're there, you need to be present. I go to these restaurants and I watch a family of 4 or 5, and they're sitting at the table and they're all on their phones. Like, that's right. This is your relationship right now. Who could you possibly be talking to that's more important than the people that you're around right now? Absolutely, man. It's so right now, my son the other day,
And, between me and you and probably millions of the listeners that you have, it really wasn't that bad a thing, right? But the punishment was I'm taking his phone. So now I've had his phone for a week. Now, what he did not warrant me taking his phone for a week. But I needed him to get disconnected from it.
Yes.
For a period of time. So he could experience life. Like, you're not experiencing life because you're in this phone right here. There's so much going on around. There's so much thoughtfulness that you're just in, not because you don't want to, it's because you have something that's distracting you from it. So I took it. So now he could have asked me right now, hey, Dad, can I have my phone back? He could have asked me 3 days ago and I'd have gave it back to him. But he ain't asked. I'm not offering it because when I look at him now and I see him, he comes home, he's doing things that he hadn't done these things in months or weeks because he had the phone, but now he doesn't have the phone, and now he's looking for other things to do that are more constructive, that it's reminding him that he has these other things that he enjoys to do that he hadn't done in a while because he was on the phone. And that's the same for us. Like, sometimes we need to put ourselves on punishment from our phones so we can.
I know. I think about time.
One of the things that and you talk about behaviors, right? And we definitely have to be careful of how these phones train us, because they're training us, right? When you get up, I know people, man, the first thing they do before they even brush their teeth is they pick their phone up and start scrolling through their emails. Like, why are you starting, right? Why are you're literally beginning, and then they like that. The last thing they put down before they go to sleep is the phone. And science has shown that that's really not healthy for you, doing that before you go to sleep, right? But yet still we do it. Why? Because, again, the phones train us. They've trained us, right? God forbid we leave our phone at home. How many of us, we leave the phone at home, we turn around, we go get the phone.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, we got to get. Sometimes I look at my daughter, like, we take the phone to the bathroom. Like, why are we taking the phone to the bathroom? Like, why are you taking your phone to go to the restroom? Like that? It doesn't make sense. Yeah. You ask, hey, go up there and get that from me upstairs. They grab it. Why are you taking your phone? Like, why? It doesn't have to go with you everywhere you go.
Text them while they're walking up the stairs.
Yeah. It doesn't have, but I know adults. I be observing adults and that's the same thing. They have the exact same behaviors, right? They do. Of how it's training us, right? And we have to be intentional about that because it is a distraction. It's a great thing. It's a great technology, but just like any tool and any technology, it's about how you use it. So phones are not good and they're not bad. They're not inherently any of that. You can use them in a good way, you can use them in a bad way. And we just got to train our kids and teach our kids how to properly use it and keep the parameters around it. So
it makes me just think of, like, my grandpa was a farmer, and it just made me think of, and I can remember he worked his butt off when we were out in the field, and I was baling hay or helping him in the summer times in the dairy. But my grandpa never took his shovel and brought it to dinner. He never took his shovel to bed with him. He set it down and said, "This day is over. It's over. And we're going to go inside and we're going to do something to play." So that made me think about that when you said it's a tool, right? Yeah. It's a tool like anything else, but it's not a tool that needs to be connected to us. And the dopamine hits that we get when the little red light comes up, or somebody texts us, or somebody that, a lot of times it's somebody we don't even know. We will never, like, we can't control. You say we're in the information age, but we can't control what's going on across the world and every place that's going on. But yet we want to know everything as if we can do something, and our lives are falling apart in our own little circles. Yeah. And we're worried about, find out what's going on in the Ukraine. I'm not saying it's bad to not know what's going on in the world that we live in, but at some point, how do we turn that off? Yeah. So that we can now become the people that we need to be in order to do what God put us on this earth to do, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Man. We've been talking. We're going to do this. I love this. We're going to talk now. Yeah, there's going to be a part 2 of this because some only have a certain amount of attention spans. We got to get to the speed where they can go 2 hours with us. So we'll break it up a little bit.
Okay.
What did when I asked you to come on the podcast and wanted to talk about your life and your story and the things that you've done, what would you love to end this podcast with that others could take with them that we can say, okay, then we'll come back for part 2 and do some more as we progress?
Yeah. Yeah.
What would that be?
I mean, I think I'm gonna repeat what I said earlier because I really
Okay.
want them to get it, right?
Okay.
You have enough, right? You don't need more time. You don't need more relationships. You don't need more knowledge. You don't need more ideas. Your reputation is good enough. You have enough to be able to create whatever it is that's in your brain of your picture of success, whatever that looks like. You already have it, right? You're just not using it the right way. So you just need to sit down and think through what do you have, right? It takes me back, we talked about God, we talked about God's purpose, we talk about the Bible. It always brings me back to the conversation Moses was having with God, and he was giving him all his reasons why he couldn't go save the children of Israel from Egypt, right? So he's asking God, well, how am I going to do it? And God said, what's in your hand, right? What's in your hand?
Yeah.
Right? And then Moses looked at the stick and the story, right?
Yeah.
In essence, he was saying, you have it already. Mm-hmm. He was giving his reasons why he couldn't speak. He was like, ain't Aaron right there, like your brother? Like you have it. So you don't need to go achieve what it is that you want to achieve. You just need to better use what you have to get to where you're trying to get to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And just add to that, I think of not only do you have enough, you are enough.
Absolutely.
God has placed greatness inside of you to be able to do exactly what he put you on this earth to do. And so the feelings of, I'm not measuring up, or I'm not the greatest dad in the world. Well, we need to develop into that. None of us were. I promise you, when any of us had our first child, we were not the greatest dad in the world. We made lots of mistakes, and you're going to make lots of mistakes as you go through this, and you start growing, and you get around people, the great people. I'm going to take a group of Black men to Alabama at the last week in January. We're going to go and we're going to do a civil rights tour. So we can go. We're going to start out in Birmingham, then we'll end up in Selma, and then we'll go to the Bryan Stevenson's Equal Justice Museum and kind of talk. Okay, this is the history. This is what you came from. Yeah. We're going to talk about some emancipation stuff with our stories and where you're at. And so if you're feeling that way, you're going to want to this. But it's just a matter of saying, okay, we know where we're at. This is where we are, and then this is where we get to go to be. And I don't want you to try to do that alone. I mean, tell me, folks of us who try to do this all by ourselves just get stuck in our head, and we can be miserable. When we come around people, and like you said, relationships are so vitally important that we continue to do those things we can. I was just thinking as you were talking, I want to do a part 2, but you know how those shows have like a crossover show, like out of like Chicago Med goes to Chicago Fire to go to Chicago. So Mr. Michael G. Davis, CEO, has a podcast. And I'm going to jump on his podcast, and we're going to continue this conversation.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
we're just going to, because I hope if you listen to this broadcast, you've been inspired. I hope that you listen to, and it's just not about inspiration, because we've actually talked about some practical things that you can do. Yeah. He talked about what you do when you get up. I'm doing a series right now, the do's and don'ts of becoming that person. And one of the first things is, when you wake up in the morning, what are you thankful for? If you just lay there and talk about your gratitude, and then the thing that's the don't that people don't like, don't pick up your phone. So you have reinforced to exactly what I'm talking about over and over again, because like I said at the beginning of this show, success leaves clues.
That's right. That's right.
So Davis is so, you can tell just something about when you talk to people that that life's going good for them.
Yeah.
And it's money. Because I know a whole bunch of miserable people. Don't you know some miserable people that got money?
Absolutely.
But if you can be well-rounded in all these different things and take on, it's going to help you. And we're going to have some transformative groups that we're going to put as part of Journey to Freedom. And so I thank you profusely for being on the show today. And thank you that you have just enlightened me. And I know we didn't talk about all our pillars and all this stuff,
Right.
but that's okay. What we talked about is what you need. And if you're
Absolutely.
watching this show, then you know these are some of the things you need. So, do you have any closing
Absolutely.
thoughts? Any closing to go
Yeah,
on?
I'm gonna close with this. It
Okay.
kind of reinforces. You say you speak with somebody, you can tell that life is going well, and it's not about the money, right? So I'm a story from yesterday. Like, no lie, this just happened yesterday. So my son plays baseball. He's 12, 13. He just made 13. He's been playing baseball since he was 4 years old. Started off, he wasn't good at all. But now through working, got his pan, boom. He's top baseball player, right? So he's at the batting cage, and now he's at that age around kids where, man, they're like growing fast, right? So, and my kid, he's not growing as fast as other kids, but that's cool. He'll get there. So we're in the cages yesterday. One of the parents comes up to me, and I'm like, I talked about relationships. So, how you treat people, how you nurture relationships. So obviously this is a baseball community. We've been in it for some years. These are people, these are friends, these are colleagues. We look out for one another. Low key, this is family, right? And he comes and he asks, he's like, hey, my son's Mike. They call him Money. It's like, what size does Money wear? What size shoe does Money Mike wear? And I'm like, I don't know, right? His mom know. I don't know. Maybe he know. I go ask him. I don't know. So he goes, they ask him, whatever. He was like, yeah, man, because, Joe, my son, we got him. But as soon as I got the shoes, like his foot just grew out of nowhere. He can't fit these shoes. So I'm like, and so now, hand-me-downs. Oh, these are, I'm like, but my kid, like, we ain't prideful. You got some shoes, you want to give the shoes to my kid, cool, whatever. So he goes, he has, I didn't even think the shoes in the car. Man, my man goes out there, comes out with 2 boxes. These are $200 tennis shoes, brand new.
Whoa.
I'm like, what? So my son comes, and again, knowing that your life is good, right? Mm-hmm. My son comes over, he sees the shoes, just his face.
Oh my gosh.
Like just the level of appreciation to have a blessing, wasn't expecting it, don't need it. It ain't like we don't need it, right? But you have it, you attracted it. That's what you're putting out there. Mm-hmm. And that's what this is about, man. And that's what life is about. It's about putting out the right energy, man, and it comes back to you.
It comes back 100-fold. It really does. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you for that story. Thank you for, remind me when we talk again, I'll tell you a story about my son that is just, the same type of thing where you're blessed beyond, you're out there, you're serving people. My prayer every day, folks, is, dear Lord, give me the wisdom to do the things you put me on this earth to do in a way that serves you or pleases you and others. And if I can do that, if I can wake up every single morning and do that, everything else takes care of itself. I don't worry about money because I'm doing what God asked me to do. Right. And so there's things that you get to stop worrying about and get to start living. Yeah. And so thank you again for being another part of the Mile High. Not Mile High. I'm in Denver. I am a Mile High, but this is the Journey to Freedom podcast. And so, like I said, Michael, I can't wait to do this with you again. I can't wait to continue to talk some more. For those of you guys, go ahead and hit subscribe, hit, the bells, whatever it is, because I promise you, if you start doing some listening, even listen to us a double time, you don't have to hear our voice the way our voices really sound. But if you can take some nuggets, apply some nuggets, because knowledge without action might as well not even be knowledge. So take some actions on the things that we talked about today, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. You guys have an amazing, wonderful, incredible day.
Have a good one, guys.